Yu-Gi-Oh needs a ban list, and it needs to happen really soon. And you might be asking yourself, wait, Galzo, we just got a ban list a couple months ago, and that's true, but if you look at that ban list, we had Kashtira Risehard being erased from the game to allow cards from Age of Overlord to be playable, like the Diabellstar engine that needs to send to the graveyard, and the Horus engine that needs to send to the graveyard. We also had a few hits to Dragon Link with Chaos Space and Magnet going to 1, but that was it. It was sort of like a balancing act before Age of Overlord, and now we are approaching the next competitive season. Think about the meta that we had in recent tournaments. It was completely wide open. Unchained, Infernoble, Purrely, Horus, Tier Elements, we have Rescue Ace, of course, reigning supreme, we have Labyrinth, we have Kashtira still in the game, Vanadium, Mechanical variants, the list goes on and on. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think Konami is going to want to narrow down the playing field and also allow the Fire King structure deck to be as good as it is in the OCG currently. And I think there's a ban list imminent, upcoming, quickly before YCS Bologna, so that deck can play and to balance out the meta even more. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. And one more important note before we begin, check out the new Border Sleeve Anniversary Bundle from Sleeve Chief, a collection of 5 new border sleeves, Labyrinth, Toon, Millennium, Fire, and Dark World all in one pack. And if you want to support me and the channel, use code CALZO5 at checkout. So yeah, if you haven't guessed this is a ban list prediction / wish list video, and I think that I'm looking at this through the eyes of Konami. I think that on one hand, I think all of these choices that I'm going to show are going to be for the better design of the game, and I'm going to explain every single one of them. Not everything is going to be super realistic, but I'm looking at this through the eyes of Konami saying, okay, we have a 10 deck tier 1 meta. We need to, 1, reduce it, and 2, sort of like bring the power level a little bit down to allow the new Fire King structure deck to be played out. Not killing decks completely, but sort of balancing everything because the last ban list was just super minimal. Let's begin. I think that Kashtira Unicorn can come back to 3. I don't really see, like, Kashtira is sort of like a rogue stun strategy at the moment. With the shifter, still legal. We'll talk about that too. I don't see any harm in leaving this at 3 again. I think the semi-limit was weird to begin with, but I also think that it could go back to 3 and it's not going to do a lot. I've been saying it every single ban list prediction video. Flundereeze needs to get hit. It's not going to be the only hit on this list, but I do think that the deck needs some sort of limitation, right? Obviously, it had barrier statue taken out, but the deck is still very playable. It's still relatively toxic, and I think it's about time to maybe put it to rest just because of how toxic it is and how good into other things in the meta it is. So I'm going to say it every single time. Map to 1. It's not going to be the only hit, though. This is going to ruffle a few feathers, but I think Beatrice should probably get banned on the upcoming ban list. So there's 2 reasons for this. 1, or actually 3. 1 is that if you look at Beatrice in comparison to Lavalval Chain and Curious, those cards do the same. They are as easy to bring out as Beatrice is today in certain decks, and Beatrice is a very powerful card. There are some replacements to this, and that's the first reason. If those cards are banned, this card should be banned as well, in my opinion. 2, it's a slight hit to Tier Elements. Tier Elements, with all the limitations, we saw how much time it took to bring down tier in the OCG. It took a lot of hits. Every single ban list, something is limited or forbidden, and it just wasn't enough. And it's still not enough, by the way, in the OCG. I think this is a good hit to Tier Elements. And lastly, in January, we have Transaction Rollback coming up. If you don't know what it is, I'm going to make a video about it this Friday, so check it out. The new trap card that basically, with Beatrice, you can send it on your turn, then send another trap card that basically scythe locks your opponent, and it's pretty much game from there. So it's really busted. I think Beatrice should be banned, in my opinion. This is the second Flundereeze hit, but it's also like a general wide hit. Should have happened a long time ago. Not going to spend too much time on this. Pot of Prosperity is an extremely strong card that needs to be at 1 and never leave the limited list. Never ever. Just one of the strongest cards in the game right now. It's also an indirect rescue ace hit, which is good because the deck is extremely strong currently and it's completely untouched. And yeah, Prosperity should have gone to 1 years ago. Not years ago, but months ago at least. I think we should experiment with Gamma being back to 2. I think the reason Gamma got banned initially was because of Super Heavy Samurai. So what would happen, and a little bit Kashtira as well. What happened with Super Heavy is that you activate the motorbike effect in hand to add, then your opponent would have drolled you, right? Because that completely kills the deck. It's a combo deck, adds a lot of cards to the hand, and then Gamma would just be an FTK. Like if you played Gamma as a Super Heavy player, you Gamma there, and it was really good. I think that now, with Droll and Shifter being still very annoying, lingering floodgates that are probably 2 of the strongest hand traps in the game, playing around, playing around Gamma is relatively easy, right? But we should have some answer to things like Droll and Shifter if we play it smart and if we play with Gamma in mind. So I definitely think it should be experimented. I don't agree with the fact that they even limited this card to begin with. Bring it back to 2. I would say to 3, but 3 might be a little bit too toxic. At least let us experiment with 2. We have some Unchained hits. I think the correct hit would be Limit Tour Guide. It was just released in the Rarity Collection recently. Cool, awesome, enjoy it. The 1-card combo that it offers is pretty insane. And I think Unchained needs a hit because they got an extremely good buff with Little Knight, which we'll talk about in a second. Sharvara is probably the other option. I don't think that's enough. Looking at lists, it will still be a 1-card combo. And I think just Tour Guide to 1 and leave Sharvara at 3. Second, very convoluted take of the day. I think this card should be banned. I think the inherent design flaw with this card is that Konami designs really powerful decks. We get some hand traps to try to deal with them so we don't get FTK'd on turn 1 with a combo. And then when we try to interrupt our opponent, they look at our hand and they take a card out. They have perfect knowledge. They've taken out the best piece of combo from our hand. And they also have their own board probably, right? I think the card is extremely toxic in my opinion. I was thinking about Thrust. I think Thrust is fine to stay at 3. But I think Talents is definitely bannable, and I would personally like to see it. I don't think it makes sense to punish players for trying to stop their opponent with the tools that Konami gives us. And it's an endless cycle, right? It's an endless cycle of extremely good combo decks or like extremely good combos that just like win the game turn 1. Hand traps that try to deal with them, but then getting punished and revealing your hand, perfect information, getting the best card of your hand ripped out, doesn't make sense to me at all. Pankratops, I think, should come to 3. I would really like to see this card at 3, to be honest. And it's kind of in the same discussion with Fenrir. I think if Pankratops comes back to 3, I think Fenrir could go to 1 at that point. I think Pankratops is stronger in some scenarios, but it's a very good piece of interaction when you're going second, and it's usually like a 2-for-1 or a 1-for-1 or like a 1-for-2 actually. You can attack a monster and then pop a card. It helps you play through floodgates and annoying stuff that could be interrupting the board, and it's not a spell card, which a lot of boards end with like spell negates and stuff. This is a little bit better. I think it should be a toolbox at 3, and I think Fenrir has done its time. It's time to go, and I think when your opponent special summons a Fenrir, it immediately changes the way you play into the board because you already have to spend 1 to 2 interruptions just on that Fenrir. And I don't think it really makes sense. This is going to be a big forbidden limited list. Isolde, in my opinion, should be banned, but I think what they will do is limit it. And we also have Neospace Connector here, which I thought about. I think it will stay unchanged. It will stay the same at 3. But the reason why Isolde at 1 is fine. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, I don't need more than 1 Isolde. And that's absolutely fantastic. The fact that Isolde has 2 effects that trigger at different times during the turn means that it's really hard to interact with this card. So if you drop like a negate on it on summon on the ad that is not the correct Veiler or Imperm, by the way, you still have some time to wait until the second effect usually. And if you don't interact with it, they can just make a second result. Or if you do negate it on the first effect, they just make a second result and activate the second effect, which is fine. The card is extremely busted. This is the FTK enabler of all times. I think this card should be banned personally. I think this card deserves to be banned. I think they might limit it to, Calm Infernoble Knight down. And the other thing is just limiting Little Knight immediately. I love this card. This card is great. Created a power shift in the game that I think is good. And they're not going to ban it because they designed this card to bring up the power level of the game on release, right? So we created a new reality with releasing Little Knight. But now, this is a Runic Fountain to 2 kind of situation. This is the ratios that we want you to play. You're just going to play one. It's going to be in your extra deck. It's going to be in your toolbox. It's great. Wonderful card. Add 1. Now, it feels a little bit too dangerous playing more than one. Some Rescue Ace lists play 3 of this, which is crazy. This card is amazing. This card is one of the best. It warped everything that we know about the format. It should be limited immediately, in my opinion. Just because it's the correct ratio. Like, play 1. This is what we want Yu-Gi-Oh! With Little Knight at 1. Labyrinth, it's time. We have Transaction Rollback. We have Arias. The deck didn't receive any hits. It is going to be hit a little bit with Prosperity. I agree. Not every build plays Prosperity, to be honest. But Big Welcome, I think, is definitely fine to get to 1 here. The deck has been playable for a very long time from Darkwing Blast, which is a while ago. Time to hunker down on it. Same with Sleepy. The deck is very toxic in my opinion. It doesn't really promote healthy gameplay. It's a very skillful deck. It's a very fun to watch deck sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's a Towers Turbo deck and an OTK deck, which I don't find extremely exciting myself. Not to play against, not to play. Playing it is kind of fun, to be honest, and it's kind of skillful, but I don't think it's like extremely, I don't think it's extremely fun to have around. And Sleepy obviously is like, looking down at a Noir after your opponent drew 6 cards, that should not be the case ever. Herein, I think in light of the Magic Spectre support, and also because the OCG didn't do it, it might be time to see what's up if we limit Kieran. Airlifter, I think I wanted to maybe talk about Emergency as well. I'm going to go with both of them to 2 at the moment. I think that I don't necessarily like hitting Emergency specific, like limiting Emergency by its own. It doesn't do anything because Lifter still exists. You can just search it. It's searchable. So it's a searchable one-of in a deck that has a big engine and powerful cards. Yeah, it's fine. Also, Prosperity to 1. If that happens, Rescue Ace doesn't need to be hurt a lot. I think it's fair to limit both of them and see what happens. It's a fairly new deck with the Diabellstar stuff, so let it play out a bit. Engage could go to 3. Nobody would care. Same with Harp. Same with Redox. They will do nothing. I promise you that they will do nothing. Even Engage at 3 will do absolutely 0. Shifter will not be banned. Same thing with Calamity. Runic is probably still gonna remain untouched. Yeah, I think Magnemite is gonna stay the same, to be honest. I think it's gonna stay the same, even though it probably deserves a ban. Seeing what it still does, a lot of people. I posted a short suggesting maybe to ban Striker Dragon. People were incredibly mad, which is fair. I'll accept it. That's fine with me. It might need to be banned. Like, this card is extremely, extremely powerful with all the other Bystials at 3 and like Dragon Link still mega being a thing. I think it could be banned. And I think it's fine to ban this card, even though it will hurt me a lot. Brand Fusion is here because, this is my channel. I think it won't see any, it's probably not going to see any limit unless they will think okay, we kind of kill all the other decks or hurt them significantly. Maybe Chimera is going to rise up and Brand Fusion is one of the strongest starters, but I'm not sure. Eradicator, it won't matter if they limit or ban this. Transaction Rollback is extremely toxic. And Dryas, I would personally ban this card, but it's not doing anything except for like European events once in a while. I think the deck is really toxic and not fun. I would ban this card immediately. I think there's not going to be a change on this next ban list. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully this comes out before Bologna. I would be very happy with a ban list like this. There's no like incredible hits. Like Unchained's engine still remains at full power. Same with Infernoble. The Labyrinth kind of taking a hit, but it's a very old deck. Same thing with Purrely. It's a deck that got hit immediately with Delicious. And yeah, it's super toxic to draw 6 cards with the towers on board. So I'm fine with that. Prosperity is long overdue. And these are probably wild cards that you have not expected to see, but I do want to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, subscribe. Don't forget the Sleeve Chief Border Anniversary Bundle Sale, Galzo 5. Link is in the description below. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.